spent a fair amount of time talking to our learners and looking at their habits in a variety of ways, looking at things like stats, being able to tell that our public website was getting, the end of last quarter last year, we were getting about 4.6% of visitors coming to our public website from smartphones. By the time we got to the first quarter this year, that was up to 8%. I'm also in the fortunate position that my office overlooks the exit to the building, and so at the end of the day I can watch the students walking through and seeing their devices, and it's amazing how many who are bumping into their friends because they've got their head down looking at their phones, but also the number of students who are using smartphones now, as increasingly mobile providers are just replacing them with smartphones. Well, we're working at the moment on developing 3 different products. Our first initiative was to develop a mobile version of Columbus for our staff, and so to give them an opportunity to get access to the data that they're used to on the desktop Columbus site on a mobile device. We thought that would be useful for staff dealing with certain situations around the building. So they're asked a question by a student, they need to look something up quickly, they've got their phone with them, they can do that easily. But also staff who are out on residentials or visits, again, very, very practical for them. As part of that individual project, we had to spend some time working with staff looking at different devices and finding out that actually the size of the screen was the biggest limiting factor. And so one of the things that we had to do was to really focus down on what was necessary and what mattered and strip out the extraneous stuff. So we removed all of the pages that were nice to have and focused really down on the pages that were essential to have. The second project that we initially decided was a lower priority, but actually moved it up the list, was mobile attendance. We have staff who teach NVQ football, we have staff working with our sports academy. They're out and about the site on the field. One of the things that we find for them is that completing a register in front of a PC just isn't practical. And so they were telling us very quickly, if you're going to take away our existing registers and you want us to do things online, that's a problem. And so developing mobile registers was a very, very straightforward project actually. It was a lot faster for us to develop than we originally thought. Using Unity tools, we've been able to produce a site that enables us to give staff very chunky interface, nice and straightforward to use, that somebody very quickly when they're on the go can take the register for their classes for that day. And the third project, and the one that perhaps is going to be the one that makes the biggest difference to students in the institution, is developing a mobile site for learners to use to interact with their own records, but also perhaps going beyond that and finding ways to blend in technology, blend in information from things like our VLE, our learning environment, to look at integrating social media where we can. And so we're using Unity tools again to develop that site. We're piloting it at the moment and we're hoping to roll it out for a full trial in the autumn. The sort of feedback that we've had from staff in terms of these projects has been fascinating. It's really taught us, as the people designing the software, the best way to maximise the interface. And when you're dealing with a small device, every single pixel on the screen matters. You've got to make use of those, and there is no room for things that you don't need for day-to-day use. And so our feedback straight away told us that the interface we designed originally was too fiddly. People were hitting the wrong thing and they were pressing the wrong button by accident. And so we moved to an interface that was more chunky and involved more scrolling, that made it more practical for users to use. People like it to be quick and easy. They want to be able to use the software on the move, and so therefore again it's keeping back to that original notion of identifying what's important when you're designing the software. At the moment we're at the very beginning of this process in terms of using mobile technology. There's so many exciting opportunities out there for things to develop and improve, and there's so many tools indeed on smartphones that we could use. So the GPS, the camera, the audio recording, and so we're finding different ways, we hope in the future, that we can use that technology in our future developments. We are looking at ways that we can blend together the sorts of experiences that students would get from a learning platform, a VLE, and the more administrative parts of the software. So, for example, not just giving them their timetable, but giving them access to their timetable and their mark book, and then going in and taking them through to the data that they might get from a VLE system. So we've got a range of plans. We would certainly say we're at the early stages. We'd certainly say that we're learning as we go along, and that learning process has been really useful for us. But we're optimistic that Unity will give us a lot of opportunities in the future as the technology evolves. The business case is something that we've had to consider quite carefully, because actually there are costs involved buying the technology, and sometimes buying hardware if we're talking about staff. But actually, if we look at the cost of what we're doing already and the amount of time involved in delivering certain things already, the sheer convenience of giving people something in a mobile environment is really unavoidable. We have to find ways of giving people access to the systems that they want to use on a day-to-day basis, using smartphones, using iPads, using tablet devices. If we don't do that, we will be left behind. And so to a large extent, the business case is, can you afford not to do it?